To the white folks who have expressed anger and shock over my approval of 1,000 Miles usage in the Spinabens, Wappa, Wit, Bechapa, Youngeen, Ace, and Fast Money Goon song, Who I Smoke, I invite you to ask yourself why you feel this way, and then read this. Popular songs accompanied by white violence, or tales of white violence, aren't questioned. It's considered visceral or cinematic. Here we have Stuck in the Middle of You playing while the guy gets his ear cut off, Reservoir Dogs. Stuck in the middle with you. The problem is that, Vanessa, it's a fucking movie, you stupid fuck! This was some clown world shit. Damn, her original tweets were worse than I actually hyperbolized. What a dumb fucking tweet. How fucking stupid. Is it fair to assume that she didn't know they actually killed someone? If she didn't know, then maybe she should shut the fuck up. It's pretty easy. Don't say anything then. Why would you assume? 2-hour video. Fuck this. I ain't got time for that. Better lore video. I'm almost positive we watched this before, but did somebody say free contentanito? Hell yeah! That's content en español, by the way. What is, how do you say by the way in Spanish? Does this actually, like, is that how people say it, colloquially? I hate R's. Por cierto? Cierto? I can't roll my fucking R's at all. Fuck. Okay, we can't use that phrase. Unless there's a non-R version of it. What are you doing? Played this week, some dumb fucking here had the balls to say Maynard was a terrible singer. Wow, base. Is that something about Gideon? Never before in my entire life.
Conspiracy theories that you've heard, like, or seen on the internet that you think that could be true. That goes on you.
He played the Among Us sound. Okay. Interesting video essay from a fan of yours, Bit Bread to Be.
Hi, glad you could join.
What? The lights? Why? Why do they all do this?
Is this song gay?
How do you know he's a fan of mine? How Spotify manufactures gay culture.
Hi, glad you could join me. Is this song gay?
Is it gay? I don't think it is. Oh god, was it?
Tastes a little heterosexual, huh?
Okay.
How about this?
That's not gay, is it?
Oh, now that tasted like fresh fruit, right? Why? Why does
Wait, that was gay? Oh, no, am I gay?
How about this?
It just sounds like some fucking European club fucking German dance music. I don't fucking know. I feel like if I were to walk into like a Turkish barber or some shit, I would hear this shit playing on some shitty radio in the background looped on repeat forever.
Oh, now that tasted like fresh fruit, right? Why? Why does some music remind us of queer, lesbian, bisexuals and other music the back of a CVS? The answer to this question involves domination under capitalism, twinks and bottoms, and over 7,000 gays willing to help us find the answer. What's so gay about gay music? What's so gay about gay culture? Is it actually gay? Have you considered how your carbon footprint is implicated in the developing climate crisis? I'm sorry, but we have to talk about how this video was sponsored by Ren. Climate change is happening, and it's not...
Do you think this green... Sorry, Jesus. Is this intentional? It looks cool. Okay.
Stopping for this video, nor is it stopping for James McAvoy's unreasonably red lips. We have to deal with it, and while I know big companies often do
Isn't it a backlight? Yeah, but I think you, Fuck, what is a backlight used for? I don't remember. Key light is supposed to be a bright one. Still light is supposed to make it so it's not ultra dramatic. And then you have a backlight. I think you just use a backlight on the back for highlighting a little bit, but it's not usually a funky color. Isn't the backlight just used to like make sure you're like, if you want to highlight the top of your hair or something? It's usually not every color, but obviously it's an artistic use of light. The only reason why I asked for intentional is because when I look at this, it reminds me of like a fucked up green screen. Especially because it's the color green. That's the only reason why I'm at, but probably an intentional effect. I guess it looks okay.
Things out of our control. We gotta be real about
Oh yeah, backlight separates you from the background as well. Yes, true.
the fact that we also kind of play a role in the future. I know how hard it is to be environmentally conscious when gas just tastes so damn good. Well, Ren makes it super easy to track your individual carbon footprint and actually do...
Okay. I need to get hold on, give me like 3 minutes, I think. Beat this no balls. Oh, 94%. Okay, hold on one second.
Look at Tim. Worst bits feels like baby's first reverse loop, and the drums are compressed to absolute dog chest risky. I have other problems, but they're more taste-based. BG's is the best and easiest example of falsetto singing. The Bee Gees are the best example of a falsetto voice. This reminds me of people bending over backwards to explain how good animations made by problematic artists are actually badly drawn. The irony is that they would see pushing someone off a bridge the same as telling someone to jump. "90% of people's problems with Tate is his views on women during the administration. Russ streams, not his allegations." Yes, 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 hate women more.
Yo, Des, I'm down bad. Twitch is banned Gambit, I'm out 300k Sliker. And you spot me 10k, bro, you know I'm good for it.
If you really want to hang out with Tate, I could introduce you to my friend who's friends with him, and I can prove it. SpongeBob is a millennial thing. Sure, bro. I bet you played the SpongeBob game on Sega Genesis. Perfect circle fun. Keep up the great work, Steven. Bro, you live in Miami. It's not safe for you to watch these songs.
Look at that. Look at them.
Somebody say look at him?
Look at them. Look at them. Look at them.
Okay, done.
You're a bot, dumb bot, stupid bot, fucking bot.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the awful movie Alien Covenant? Absolute trash. There's a really bad actor in those movies, or an actor that gives a shit performance every time, and people defend it as the android dude. And they're like, oh my god, he's so good at acting like an android, like monotonous with no emotions or feelings, and it's so fucking cringe. Prometheus and Alien Covenant are both dog shit fucking movies. They're incomprehensible. The actual movie itself is boring and dull. Like, it's just so, yeah, the Fassbender guy, it's just such, they're both dog shit movies. I don't know who defends those movies. It's like an impossibly fucking zoomer weird take on media. I totally don't get it.
This just be my room right here. My boy shot my house up. I was right on the bed, me and my little brother Quan. They shot my house up from right here. This is my mama's shit right here. They shot my mama's house. They shot this part right here. My mama was in the room. They shot that bitch up. My house always got shot. They always spent on my shit. And then we doubling back though, for real. Come here though.
The ATK gang. Investigators say this organization is connected to a string of murders in Jacksonville.
There's many names for ATK. Ace's Top Killers is one. 9 people, potentially responsible for the 50 murders that we know of, and who knows what else.
The day we were shooting scenes for When I See You, Who I Smoke.
Who I Smoke came out of nowhere, went crazy, kind of made it more mainstream to where people who don't even know y'all, they were tapped into it. Did you make them do that?
I don't know. I took it too far when they made a song for a speaker. Once the dead get involved, it's already too far.
Hi, what is up, everybody? For the past few months, the most talked about song on social media is the Who I Smoke video from Young and Ace. It exposed the mainstream to the deadliest rap feud that's been going on for years, and it's happening in Jacksonville, Florida. Rappers from there are on a completely different wave, hiding the clues to revenge killings inside their music videos, taking the beats from classic pop songs, and trying to rap the most demonic shit over it. Young and Ace and his crew remixed the classic Vanessa Carlton song, 1,000 Miles, and flipped it, filming at a plush golf course, smoking cigars, all while dancing to lyrics that celebrate the deaths of their rival crew, led by the the rapper Fulio out of North Jacksonville. Who I Smoke went viral, hitting 16 million views in 1 month and getting reactions from all the biggest influencers online.
Who I Smoke? Say it. No! Hey, Fulio, come get this nigga before you play with the top.
This is one of the most savage videos I've seen. Just, you know why? They ain't show one gun in the video. But the way they seem to be just nonchalantly enjoy life while clowning the niggas who died?
So Fulio had to retaliate in a darker, more ominous way, remixing a classic Fantasia song and in the music video, printing out a big poster of 2 of Ace's friends and his blood brother who died by Ace's side in a drive-by shooting outside a Japanese steakhouse. Ace was the only one in the car who survived. Since then, both Fulio's crew and Young and Ace's crew released this song after this song towards each other, leaving hidden messages in the music videos.
Where is Corbin Johnson? The 18-year-old's parents say they dropped him off last week at a job interview and they never saw him again.
Left his house Wednesday night. Here's a picture of him behind us. And there's little in the way of clues as to where he might be.
Corbin ass was lost until they found him in that bag.
Corbin Johnson was last seen alive in July of last year. Then last Friday, a man discovered the victim's skeletal remains.
What makes this situation real cold is some of the folks beefing are literal cousins. Blood relatives caught up on opposite ends of the feud.
Now, that is your cousin. Fuck your cousin, man. That's your real cousin? That nigga cousin. Don't go. That nigga cousin.
Now, we're getting into all this, but first I got my guy Millie's with Jim Jones for the song of the day today. This is Heightened Senses. Let's go.
Trying to turn a pandemic to a pandemic. Still racked up when the government can't lend it. You suckers spending unemployment checks on class A, avoiding wreck like dudes ain't put your homie in the ashtray. It's nasty. Got it on me right now, I'm sliding through the trenches. Never live this lifestyle, we grew up jumping fences. Life or death game, I had to play this shit relentless. Surviving on my instincts.
How is it legal? Well, I imagine because you say it's just entertainment, right? It's not real. We have a very, very, very strong First Amendment in the United States, okay? Fuck you, Eurocucks.
Hi, in order to understand this story, we gotta go to the biggest city in the country in terms of land size. That's not in Alaska, and that's Jacksonville, Florida. Florida's always had
You ever heard about chav culture? What, like British people? A little bit, not really?
A huge presence in rap music, especially in the last 2 decades. But its biggest city, Jacksonville, never really got any mainstream success until now. And that's all because of these viral diss records between 2 crews. Young and Ace is the face of ATK gang, which mostly occupies the west side of Jacksonville. His rival Fulio is the face of KTA, alias Kill Them All, which is an alliance between 2 groups. Fulio's gang from the north, and Young and Reckless, a crew from the south side. What's worse about this beef is the amount of mutual friends both camps had at one point in time. Ace and Fulio were never exactly close, but they did have mutual friends such as Queso, who right now is locked up with his own father, charged for 2 murders, including the killing of Fulio's blood brother, Bibby. After Bibby's murder, Queso would notoriously walk around wearing Bibby jerseys, taking photos like it was a trophy. He even released an album in 2019, putting images of his dead ops as the cover, like a Mount Rushmore of fallen rivals. Jacksonville police, or JSO, are notorious for not cracking cases. In fact, 70% of murders in the city go
Wake up, bot Destiny. They put this demon music on trending and then ban me and you. True, Sneeko.
unsolved. So
why isn't Congress reacting to this?
Cracking cases. In fact, 70% of murders in the city go unsolved. So folks online came up with the catchphrase, JSO loves Queso, for the simple fact that he telegraphs what he's doing on social media.
You see how like this? Come here, boy! Come here, boy!
All of Queso's songs have millions of views on YouTube, and he was actually very close with King Von. The two had music together. Queso even appeared in that infamous video where Quando, Rondo, and Von were joking around with each other back when they were on good terms.
Dirty ass!
Queso was there as well. But back in Jacksonville, Queso had a well-known reputation for demonic antics. He famously tried to organize a team deathmatch in real life with his own cousins, who rep the rival gang, KTA.
What's up? Where you at? Come on, I do a team deathmatch. Right now? Y'all 2 versus us 2. Look at my cousin. We looking like. My cousin don't want to talk. He trying to act all. He trying to act all hard. Oh, Jason. They got the black hoodies on.
One of the cousins on that live was named Lil 9. A month after that back and forth, Lil 9 was leaving a gas station when his car was ambushed, shot 12 times from a rifle inside another car, sending him crashing into a rental wheel tire shop, where Lil 9 was pronounced dead at the scene. While folks at the tire store were trying to revive him, Lil 9's friend who was in the crash with him was frantically walking around filming inside the store.
Fuck niggas played. Played. Fuck niggas played. You fucking played, man.
Of course, Queso responded with a video of his own, laughing.
Get out! Get out!
Then Queso's blood brother, also Lil 9's cousin, would recreate Lil 9's death video from the tire shop.
Y'all fuck niggas played. Y'all niggas played. Y'all niggas played.
60 days later, Queso dropped a music video, and in it, we see him putting a photo of his own deceased cousin, Lil 9, in the microwave. See, the crazy part is, everybody that's beefing, at one point in time, was cool. Queso met Young and Ace in the 9th grade, they've been friends ever since, but the rival Fulio likes to remind Queso that back in 2015, he was hanging with them, and even had the nickname 6 Block Queso for his affiliation with Fulio's gang, 6 Block. Even Young and Ace admits he was a fan of Fulio's music before their beef really escalated, but a series of unfortunate events would draw lines in the sand. Neutrals had to pick sides quickly. At a block party in South Jacksonville, it's in YNR territory, Young and Reckless. A crew led by YNR Mookie and his lieutenant, Slugga T. Ace and his gang show up to the party and get into an argument with YNR's leader, Mookie. Shots were fired and a bullet grazed Mookie's skin, with his lieutenant Slugga T shooting back. But Ace and his crew managed to escape the party, leaving...
The stuff from this video is just the USA version of UK drill rap, which is basically extremely violent, lyrically grime music. Grime equals bonger rap. That's why that person said it. They asked about Chaz, by the way. Gotcha. Okay.
Young and Reckless and Ace's crew on bad terms. On top of that, YNR's leader Mookie was already friends with Fulio's cousin. This made it easy for YNR and Fulio's gang to click up, creating an alliance under the name KTA, or Kill Them All, with one enemy in common, Young and Ace and ATK. The trends in Jacksonville at the time were not good. It was marking an increase in the murder rate year on year. In 2017, Ace would drop the song Go to War. This was an open...
People are tagging to say drill is from Chicago. Okay, I don't know. I don't care. Gotcha. Sneeko wants you to say the N-word. Sneeko, you can say it as much as you want to.
Invitation to anyone opposing ATK to retaliate. Not long after, Ace's home was shot up, but the tipping point was soon to come. A few months later, one of Ace's friends was out on a mission, looking to avenge a robbery that had happened to him. He knew exactly where the robber was, on the west side of Jacksonville, at Fulio's cousin's house. So he snuck into the house, throwing a brick through the sliding door, entering from the back, where he began shooting. No mask, no gloves. He couldn't get who robbed him, and instead he ended up killing Fulio's cousin, Zion, and wounding a 9-year-old girl. If this was the start of a war, Zion's death was the catalyst. Not long after, Zion's sister was shot 14 times in an attempt to prevent her from going to trial and testifying. She miraculously survived, and young Ace's friend who did the shooting was sentenced to life. But things were just getting started. Fulio's cousin being the first death in the beef meant KTA were looking to get revenge swiftly. They needed to make an example. Ace's music was starting to pick up steam. His new song, F That, was getting millions of views on WorldStar in mere days. Fans were already comparing him to Youngboy. Then a week later, this happened.
4 young men were in this car when they were shot. The vehicle pulled up to their Chevy sedan, opened fire, then took off. And one is in critical condition at the hospital.
Keontae Bullard, the only survivor of the quadruple shooting.
It's a Tuesday in June of 2018. Ace, his brother, and 2 friends were going to Wasabi, a Japanese steakhouse, for Ace's friend's 18th birthday. Everyone was in good spirits, taking photos. It was a celebration. But little did they know, the whole time, they were under surveillance. Rivals had found out their location because of Ace's Instagram story, taking photos.
Actual stream snipers.
Outside the steakhouse. Ace even recorded his friends eating inside the restaurant and posted that too. So their enemies waited outside, watching them eat, then followed them leaving the restaurant, driving along the highway. When they got to a red light, the shooters opened fire on the passenger side of Ace's car, killing his 2 best friends and his brother, leaving Ace in critical condition. It was a quadruple shooting, and Fulio got the news before anyone else did, except he thought Ace was dead.
Boy lost the Fortnite match. Took over the cold summer alert, man. 2 3-pack, man. Ace pack, bitch.
Of course, Ace survived, but he lost everything. His brother and his 2 best friends. The attention, however, was helping grow his career. NBA Youngboy would FaceTime him to record a song, and it also...
So here's like the real question, right? I can understand like gang violence and shit. When that's like all you can do for life, you know? Like these are the only opportunities available to you. But obviously these guys can make music. They all have the ability to pursue other shit. So is it all just like personal at this point? It doesn't seem like they're fighting over corners or like trying to fucking, like sling dope or whatever. Like what, like it feels even more fucked up that it's just like personal beef. Like it's fucking insane. It's almost LARPy. It's almost cosplaying as like, yeah, I don't know, damn.
Also motivated Ace to make his biggest record ever, called Pain, which went viral and as we speak has 50 million views on YouTube. But the blood spilling was not over. Every time Ace would drop a song, his rival YNR Mookie would use the same song titles to make a diss track. The Jacksonville police even created a whole new department called the Violence Reduction Strategy Team, whose whole job was to basically comb through music videos from both camps, looking for clues. The assistant chief even said in an interview, "I don't think their primary goal is to entertain, but they are making real rap music." And at the top of the next year, in February 2019, Fulio's little brother Bibby was the next-
Wait, fuck, I was reading chat and I just missed what everybody's laughing at. What happened?
On YouTube. But the blood spilling was not over. Every time Ace would drop a song, his rival YNR Mookie would use the same song titles to make a diss track. The Jacksonville police even created a whole new department called the Violence Reduction Strategy Team, whose whole job was to basically comb through music videos from both camps, looking for clues. The assistant chief even said in an interview, "I don't think their primary goal is to entertain, but they are making real rap music." And at the top of the next year, in February 2019, Fulio's little brother Bibby was the next target for assassination.
Wait, Sauce. Okay, thanks. I'll check it out, okay?
Bibby was just 16 at the time, and he was coming home from school one day in his own neighborhood on the north side of Jacksonville at the Hilltop Apartments. He was sitting on a gazebo in the courtyard of his complex with a friend. The two were looking at their phones when all of a sudden, pounding gunfire erupted. Bibby and his friend dropped the phone and jumped. Both started running in different directions, frantically looking for cover. A total of 60 rounds were shot in under 15 seconds. Bibby was killed instantly. A year later, when the court documents were unsealed, the police named Queso as the gunman responsible for Bibby's murder, saying that they drove for hours, circling the complex, barking, waiting, until finally springing out and unleashing Draco rounds in Bibby's direction. Then Queso allegedly walked up to Bibby, who was on the ground, shielding himself from the gunfire, and executed him at close range, before fleeing the apartment complex in a gray Nissan. The court documents also mention Queso's affinity for wearing Bibby jerseys, and posting it to his IG page in celebration. Queso's bond is currently set at $4 million. For Fulio, losing his brother and his cousin in a short period of time was devastating, but 2019 was also the year his music was going to the next level. 1 million views, back to back to back, consistently. And he was doing it all independent. Fulio was a big deal in Florida, but not quite big enough to be touring the country on his own. Unlike his rival Young and Ace, who was booking shows in multiple states. Just a month after Fulio's brother died, Ace was performing at a nightclub in Waycross, Georgia. Him and his crew went back to the hotel to relax by the pool when they were suddenly ambushed. An SUV pulled up and a group of guys hopped out shooting. Queso was there and didn't hesitate for 1 second to shoot back. One of Queso's boys, Rallo, died at the pool in that shootout. Only Ace's side got arrested for shooting back. The other gunmen were never found by police. Queso would say the quiet part out loud in his song Been Dead, where the lyrics go, "Shoulda killed me in Waycross, they hopped out with the K's. Me and Scotty bustin' back, we were on the same page." That's the same music video where he puts his cousin Lil 9 in the microwave. A month after dropping this song, Queso was arrested for a whole different murder alongside his father, who was charged with accessory after the fact. Allegedly, they were getting revenge on a rival rapper named KTA Lil Buck, who dissed Queso's older brother that died in a van full of Queso's relatives when 2 cars rolled up, blocking them off, and put 100 bullets inside the car. Lil Buck was Fulio's close friend and a high-profile price target that ATK got the drop on, allegedly rolling up at 11 in the morning while he was applying for a job to assassinate him. Queso posted to his Insta story right after, saying, I kill a dude, then get my toes done.
Receiving a pedicure with the caption, kill a N-word, then go get my toes done.
This wasn't the first hit done outside a job site. Another rapper, Jump Out, who beefed with Young and Ace and ATK, was killed while waiting in line to apply for a job at an Amazon warehouse, leading to the infamous line on Who I Smoke, where they say, found out where he was working and clocked him out. The war had escalated to a point where, no matter where they were, no matter who it was, one side was shooting at the other, and the other would shoot back. We can count a dozen of Fulio's friends who are locked up, and YNR Mookie and Slugga T are behind bars too. Even Fulio's girlfriend got shot in the head.
Y'all thought I was dead. Y'all ain't understood this yet, boy.
And to this day, Young and Ace still has a bullet casing in his butt from the quadruple shooting outside the Wasabi Steakhouse. That's it for this video. Let me know what you want me to cover in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one.
We're gonna go up in an IRL stream in Jacksonville, guys. Let's see if we can get some interviews. Jesus. I know there's a Kane Peel sketch that's literally about this. Well, not literally about this, but probably because it was made before this stuff was happening, I think. But I can't really watch Comedy Central shit. It nukes my stream hard. I think I watched like 30 seconds, but now my VOD's gonna get nuked, so.
First things first, I do not care that you're a multi-platinum selling rapper, Gunrat. What I care about is that I 100% know that you murdered Darnell Simmons, so you better start talking.
Yeah, but you ain't got none.
I'm very glad that you said that. Because respectfully, I beg to differ.
I killed Darnell, yeah, I shot him with my 9. I shot him 9 times, 90 AM on the dime. And by the way, it was November 9th.
That don't mean nothing. I got a vivid imagination. I couldn't have shot Darnell. I was at my cousin's birthday party. Red Lobster, November 9th.
At Red Lobster? Mm-hmm. Jeez, I gotta tell you, Gunrat, I find that really hard to believe.
I got an alibi, birthday Red Lobster. When in reality, I shot Darnell like a mobster. It's a lie. Anyone could tell this if you know about my allergy to all shellfish.
Just confess, Gunrat.
I confess that shellfish is the only thing that rhymes with Elvis.
Okay, that's all we got. Is Russia winning the economic war? You're talking about drill music. I thought you should watch this channel 5. I don't want to watch the channel 5 video.
I just tweet on it. I say, it's me, JC and Buck, play with us, you put his body in the truck, then we take him to the dump. And they know we play for keeps, and they know that we ain't sweet. Grab a broom, we finna sweep. O-Block finna clean the streets. Boy, you better grab a heat, or get put up on a T. Put your name by RIP, or your name get turned to weed.
Do you think when you join like these types of gangs, do you think you like have to rap? Or do you think people make fun of you if you like join one of these gangs? What if you had a dude that was like super good soldier, okay? Kills motherfuckers like nothing else, but he can't rap. Do you kick him out? Does the other side recruit him? How does that work? Or are you just like the loser? You're like the hype man in the group. You don't get any lines, you're just in the back, you know, like, what? Like Lil Jon or some shit. They're black, they can rap.
Token, get the bass guitar out of your basement and meet me over at my house.
What? We don't have a bass guitar.
Your family's black, Token. There's bound to be a bass guitar in your basement somewhere.
Hey, there was a bass guitar in my basement.
I told you, Token. I better give me a beat. Okay, nice, very nice. All right, Token, give me a smooth bass line.
I don't know how to play bass.
Token, how many times do we have to go through this? You're black, you can play bass.
Old South
I'm
Park.
getting sick of your stereotypes.
Be as sick as you want, just give me a goddamn bass line.
God damn it.
Okay. My underwear were stolen again. I'm so tired. What is this? Okay.
Vladimir Putin announced in a speech last month that Russia had weathered the worst of the...
You read Noah's piece on sanctions on Russia? This is something I'm not going to dive into it. What am I? I'm joking. I was going to like, we should dive into it. We're not going to dive into it. I've seen so many back and forths on how Russia's economy is doing, that like the ruble's actually doing really well, but it's really just because they're not allowed to like cash it out for any foreign currency. Well, actually Russia's economy is fine because they've like secured energy trades with Europe. Well, actually it's horrible because the rest of the economy is fucking crumbling and they misreport their numbers. Well, it's actually okay and like it's being buoyed by their military. I have no idea, dude. I don't think I've ever seen this guy put out a bad video. This Patrick Boyle guy, I don't know who he is, but I think generally everything we've seen of him seems to be like pretty good. But who knows? We'll see.
Vladimir Putin announced in a speech last month that Russia had weathered the worst of the economic sanctions imposed by Western nations. He said that gloomy predictions about the Russian economy's future didn't come true and that the sanctions had hit foreign economies much harder than they had hit Russia. He added that the weaponry of sanctions is a double-edged sword and European countries had dealt a serious blow to their own economies all on their own. Putin boasted that Russia had gotten inflation under control at 17.6%, saying that it was below the levels in some European countries. Putin's supporters in the West make similar arguments, mostly because it's easier to question how effective the sanctions are than to defend the morality of the invasion of a neighbor.
Why are you guys asking me to speed up a relatively technical video that's doing an economic analysis of Russia? Do you know this material that well? Let me get a Red Bull. Look how mad you guys are. Goodbye, Alcatraz. All right.
Country. At the same conference, Putin raised many eyebrows with his claim that he views the entire former Soviet Union as being a part of historical Russia. Economic sanctions have been a tool of statecraft for quite some time, and it's obvious why nations might favor this approach when dealing with a nuclear-armed country like Russia. Sanctions are frequently criticized as being ineffective, but they still appear to have become the policy tool of choice for Western nations in the post-Cold War period. Russia first invaded Ukraine in 2014, annexing Crimea, and has been under sanctions ever since. These much milder sanctions did fail to deter the full scale of invasion that we're seeing right now, so it's of course worthwhile trying to understand if this approach has a significant impact or not. In the same speech where Putin claimed that Russia is mostly unaffected by the sanctions, he described them as a declaration of economic war, so we possibly need to take his claim that they're ineffective with a pinch of salt. When analysing the effectiveness of sanctions, we also need to ask ourselves whether they should be imposed one way or another in certain situations simply for moral reasons. Anyhow, almost 7 months have passed since Russia invaded Ukraine and the additional sanctions were imposed on Russia. So let's look at how the Russian economy is holding up. Is Europe really hurting more than Russia? How porous are the sanctions? And why has the ruble managed to show strength over the period? Okay, so Europe and the rest of the world have been impacted by the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the imposition of sanctions. In particular, in Europe, this is showing up in the inflation numbers, but the sanctions are also affecting global supply chains. And so businesses that either source goods from Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus, or sell goods into the region will have been significant.
If you can repeat his last sentence without rewinding, you can ban me for a week. Wait, like repeat it word for word? Is the implication that we're not listening, or? What was he talking about before this? Putin claims that the sanctions are largely ineffective. He said that they've done a good job at weathering them. They tried to invade Crimea in 2014, but the smaller sanctions weren't effective at preventing them from doing a full-scale invasion. He said not only does Putin simultaneously say that the sanctions are ineffective, he also calls it a form of economic warfare. So it seems like we should take what he says with a pinch of salt, with a grain of salt. What do you mean? Do I need to repeat his exact fucking sentence, or? I meant word for word. Okay. He showed a graph, I think, of the ruble still doing comparatively well against other currencies.
Significantly impacted. I made a recent video on the European cost of living crisis that covers many of these issues. The surge in energy prices and other associated inflation means that the OECD has reduced its forecast for the Eurozone's growth this year from the 4.3% it had projected before the war to 2.6%, which is now expected for 2022. The OECD had expected Eurozone growth of 2.5% for 2023, and that has since been revised down to 1.6%. The German economy, which is particularly reliant on energy imports from Russia, is expected to see a 0.3% decline in GDP next year.
Yikes.
The British economy began to contract in the second quarter, and even the latest UK government aid announcement has barely reduced the probability of recession. The gloomy economic outlook can be seen in the Eurozone consumer confidence figures, which look worse than they did in March 2020 and at the lows of the global financial crisis back in 2008. Western central banks have blamed the conflict for exacerbating inflationary pressures by triggering sharp rises in the cost of energy and food. The sanctions mean that Europe has been starved of gas, grain and fertilizer this year. Euro area inflation is around 9% right now, which is very high, but it's significantly below the 15 to 20% rate that has been seen in Russia. So in throwing this economic punch, Europe has definitely hurt its fist, and that should be expected simply because there has to be a cost to everything. But how has Russia's economy held up to the blow? Well, to start with, around 60% of Russia's central bank reserves were frozen back in February, and that money is unavailable to Russia at present. It's sitting unused at central banks around the world to eventually be unfrozen at some point.
Nice.
On top of that, around $30 billion of Russian oligarchs and officials' assets that were stored outside of the country were frozen too. Both of these things will have had a significant effect on Russia's economy and its ability to wage war. We can clearly see that despite what Putin says, the Russian economy is shrinking, and GDP is expected to contract by 6% this year and to shrink a further 3.5% in 2023. This is the worst economic upheaval that Russia has seen since the Soviet collapse in the early 1990s. Russia has stopped publishing many economic statistics, making it difficult to judge how hard sanctions are biting, but the available data shows significant signs of distress. A lot of the data that I'm using for this video is from a Yale University
study
paper, and I'll put a link to it in the video description below. In the first 7 months of the year, the Russian economy held up reasonably well and managed to run a trade surplus of around $8 billion. While they were selling less oil and gas, they were selling it at a higher price, and this helped the Russian economy. That budget surplus, however, almost entirely evaporated this August when Russia ran a $6 billion budget deficit. This was mostly caused by a sharp drop in energy exports. That situation will be worsening right now since the closure of the Nord Stream 1 pipeline. On top of this, there are additional European sanctions scheduled to kick in December of this year and again in February next year. That includes a complete ban on all Russian seaborne crude oil and petroleum products.
Rip.
This is a big deal for Russia, as the country's export earnings mostly come from commodities and raw materials. Energy revenue makes up almost 60% of total Russian government revenue. Besides oil and gas, other revenues within Russia from January to August of this year fell by 37% year on.
You think it's kind of weird? No, it's not. There's a lot of political jargon together, but like it's kind of weird that like the ultra-nationalist segment of the United States that's supposed to be supporting the United States because they're ultra-nationalist, like ended up kind of throwing their lot in with Russia. Like you get people like Nick Fuentes and everything, or like these very far-right people. To be fair, far-left people do as well. These very far-right people are supposed to be like the most nationalistic people, but I guess it's weird because like their form of like nationalism implies some like ultra-isolationist policy as well. So that's how they kind of like arrive at that seemingly contrary position where they are super pro-US, super pro-nationalistic, militaristic, whatever the fuck, but like anti-globalist, so they don't want any, or even like pro-national or not, pro-isolationist. So they, this is interesting. It's super interesting to me as well because I lived through my parents were in the Air Force and served in the what would it have been? In the 70s to 90s, I think, because my parents both put in almost the full 20 years. So my parents came off hardcore, that like Red Scare bullshit. They were super anti-communist, super anti-Russia. My mom flew Looking Glass missions on it was like an EC-135 or whatever. Like they were like super big on that shit. But now they're like, oh, I don't think Russia's that bad. I'm like, what the fuck happened? What? I used to hear all the time about like Red China and the Soviet Union. I didn't think my parents knew it was called Russia. I think they still called it the Soviet Union constantly. And it's just so crazy. But
on year. Imports are down 35% and exports are down 31%. Manufacturing of automobiles and other goods has collapsed because Russian companies can't import the necessary components. You can see this getting worse and worse when you look at the data on a month-by-month basis. Airlines have slashed international flights and are laying off pilots. When they do need to repair airplanes, they cannibalize parts that they can no longer import from other grounded planes in the country. Car production, according to Russia's state statistics agency, fell by almost 62.
Hold on, I forget. Is the reason super far right people are pro-Russian because they see Russia as an anti-globalist government fighting against globalism? I think they get there in a couple different ways. One is there's like 7 different ways that they're like pro-Russia now. So one is Trump attacking NATO. A lot of conservatives don't understand what NATO is or what NATO is for, and they basically just saw NATO as like some weird organization that we were part of where all the countries like ripped off the United States. That was like Trump's impression of NATO. So there's a lot of people that were super big Trump fans that think that like, well, NATO is this evil organization with a bunch of countries that are scamming and ripping us off because Obama's a dumb fuck. And so that's one reason they don't like NATO. Second thing is a lot of them have this ultra isolationist view of the United States. A lot of people do post our kind of blunders in kind of Afghanistan, but definitely Iraq. So a lot of them don't like military intervention overseas. They became sort of libertarian-esque, prefer the United States to spend money and do stuff at home rather than doing any type of like foreign involvement. So that's another reason why they're kind of like anti-Ukraine. I'll say kind of pro-NATO or kind of pro-Russia there, not necessarily pro-Russia. That's 2. 3 is everything having to do with Ukraine politically seems to be against Republicans. They don't like that Hunter Biden made his dad a billionaire and him a billionaire off of shady Ukrainian deals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all that bullshit. They don't like that Trump got impeached over trying to withhold stuff from Ukraine. So they see Ukraine as like this Democrat ally operative. That's another thing. Fourthly, you've got writers like Dugin, or you've got the general ideology of kind of
When
Russia
will
is this
you
idea that
learn
they want to be like
that
this
I don't hate
quasi-Christian
you?
nation or whatever that's fighting against like
Please.
the global cultural rot of the West, that the West is too progressive and is inevitably going to fail because of their lame LGBT values, while Russia wants to stand as this like proud whatever nation. There's a whole bunch of different reasons why conservatives like kind of side more with Russia, or the very far right conservatives kind of side more with Russia than Ukraine in this conflict. But yeah.
Think.
Putin's investments into propping up populist movement in the West played a big part in this. He played a part in this for sure, but like a big part, I don't know, it's hard to say. It's always hard to say how much you can attribute to any particular thing.
2% in the first half of the year. The Lada factory stood idle for months before resuming production in June.
If Russia was still communist, they wouldn't side with Russia. They would side with Russia. Remember, nobody actually knows what communism is. On the left or right, nobody actually really knows or even cares about what socialism or communism is. Socialism or communism for conservatives usually just means like SJWs or whatever Jordan Peterson says it means at some particular point in time. Nobody actually knows. Very far right people, especially like third positionists or people you see online, would really have no problem if the United States was a communist country. They wouldn't really care that much. As long as it's mainly white people, we keep out like excessive amounts of brown or black people, and we're taking care of our people at home. If the economy is a socialist communist economy, that's fine. The big pushes against like socialism and communism was, I think, from the neoconservatives, and probably earlier than that, to be fair. I mean, like Cold War, obviously we hated communists as well. But like even neocons like Bush and people under him pushed against like socialism and communism a lot because they were really big business. They were really pro big business, really pro corporatist. Like a lot of the newer, especially like once the Tea Party started, and you kind of get these like quasi-populist Republican movements. A lot of these people that are like anti-corporatist aren't like these huge like I love capitalism. Capitalism is the greatest fucking thing in the world. Like, I don't know how old you guys are, how many people remember this, but like, I feel like a long time ago, like in the 90s and 2000s, you would hear Republicans say shit like that. Like, capitalism is the greatest drive of human innovation and blah, blah, blah. I don't think they say shit like that anymore. I don't think they care about stuff like that.
With an anti-sanctions car model that has no airbags, no anti-lock braking systems, no air conditioning or emissions controls. There has been an absolute collapse in vehicle sales in the country, as most of the models are no longer available.
Can you clarify you're talking about conservative constituents and not the lawmakers themselves? Yeah, the lawmakers are probably mostly reasonable people because they're not dumb, but they're going to do what their constituents want. So that's really all that matters, right?
Pretty much every industry in Russia is showing much lower production this year. The sanctions are hampering Russia's ability to restock high-tech weapons too, due to the unavailability of computer chips and semiconductors that are used in advanced military equipment. Right now, Russia is restocking with weapons bought in from Iran and North Korea, countries that are not noted.
The American right is literally just a cultural warrior party. They have no econ policy. Yeah, that's kind of true. I don't really know what the fuck they, I have no idea what, because like on one end, they're very populist now. They're not very big on like big business or large corporations. They want to like deregulate tech, or they want to ultra regulate tech. They want to go super big regulation on tech. Right after they threw net neutrality into the bus from Obama, like, we don't want the government being involved. But now they're like, hold on, we need to remove Section 230 protections from tech so that we can strictly regulate them because they're being unfair. Then you had like Trump, they talk about the little guy and shit all the time, but then you have like the big tax cuts for like really wealthy people and big businesses. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck Republican econ policy is right now. It's all culturally based. I even see people on my YouTube chat saying, like, why are we sending $50 billion to Ukraine? Okay, well, let's say we did it. Republicans aren't giving that money to poor people. They're not doing anything with it. Like, what the fuck? Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the Republican, it always has been. No, I think Republicans used to have, like, trickle-down economics. Even if you think it was stupid. Republicans seem to have some sort of, like, economic policy before, but now I don't even know if they care about, I have no fucking idea what they're even thinking about when it comes to econ policy now in the United States. I truly don't know. I don't even know if they talk about it. On the inverse, what's the Democratic/liberal econ policy? The Democratic and liberal econ policy are huge investments into poor people in the United States, especially in the form of like the child tax credit. Huge investments into things like infrastructure and green energy. That's why we just had this recent massive bill that Biden passed. I think it was the biggest investment in green energy of all time. That's why we had the infrastructure plan that was one of the largest passages of legislation related to infrastructure investment of all time. I think it's generally trying to tax wealthier people more and lower the tax burden on less wealthy people. That's why you see them talking about wanting to raise like capital gains taxes or raise what was the recent one? There's a recent one that you talked about. I don't remember what it was for, but there is a Democratic econ plan. Whether you agree with it or disagree, at least it's there.
It's my love. I was saying
Destiny Strawman is so hard. Revoking
asking
230
how
so you
late
don't have to
you work
regulate.
until.
Social media will have to choose
I was
publisher or
just-
platform.
I
They
was
can't be
just
both.
asking.
Yeah, but social media is not a publisher.
I
The
was
thing is, people want to make social media a
just
publisher just because they can choose who to ban or not. Revoking Section 230 is one of the most brain-dead fucking things I've ever heard of in my entire fucking life. Section 230 protections are like a cornerstone of like the internet functioning the way that it does. People want to revoke Section 230 because they think it's going to make so that Twitter can't ban you for Republican or some shit. But like the idea that like a program can't choose what, or a platform can't choose who they want to ban or not ban, otherwise they lose Section 230 protections is insane.
I mean,
Seems to me, although they pretend to care about inflation, never, ever, don't ever let a conservative get away with that deficit bullshit. Don't ever let a conservative pretend they give a fuck about deficits. Oh, you care about the deficit? How do you feel about Trump's tax cut? Wasn't that just deficit spending? Oh, you care about the deficit? How do you feel about the fact that like every time there's a Republican in office, they run the fucking deficit up more than the fucking Democrats do sometimes? Like, oh, you care about the deficit? You know, where are all of these Republican budgets where we're running all these surpluses in the past like 20 years? Like, fuck. Don't ever let a conservative try to bullshit you that they give a fuck about spending or budgets. They absolutely don't. I want to say when Trump was in office, I could be wrong, but didn't he have some of the largest budget deficits of all time? How much did he increase the debt? Don't ever let. Don't let Republicans pretend that they give a fuck about like budget surplus, budget deficit, or the national debt. They absolutely don't give a fuck. Why would Republicans need to have an econ policy at this point? Maybe they're just big on fiscal and monetary policy. Nobody knows anything about fiscal policy, especially Republicans, so that's not true. Monetary policy is the same.
I know, I didn't
Well, wait,
see
fiscal is like monetary
call-ins,
policy.
I have my
would be like the Fed and stuff. Nobody knows anything
sound
about monetary policy like the Fed or whatever it sounds.
It's because I haven't eaten. And then I was eating and watching Black Clover. I was watching anime. And I was really focused, and it wasn't my fault.
Does debt even matter to individual people? Like the national debt? That's a rough one.
Yeah, but you didn't even say I love you last time.
We have to pay
I went
more interest on
offline
debt,
because
but in
you
terms
were
of, like,
like
how
an
much we'll actually
hour and a
focus,
half behind. That's what you were. That's why you hate.
There's like back and forth arguments on that forever.
That's
what kind of rules do you think platforms can
factually
implement if people do false
actual.
advertisements for donations, like pretending you will sue police or color your hair blue? What kind of rules do you think platforms are free to make whatever rules they want? I don't think anybody's ever argued otherwise. No. Also base.
Fuck. Okay. We're gonna do some great things. Okay. I get it. Yeah, I get it.
So balanced budget should popular policy. Yeah,
we
people
don't
like the
even
idea of
know.
balanced budget.
Genuinely, I don't even know if I'm gonna be end
for
up
their
going
technology.
before you.
To keep
We'll
the
find
unemployment
out
rate stable at
on the next
4%, the
episode
Kremlin has
of
been pushing distressed Russian companies to put workers on partially paid leave
Last minute
or to
take.
shorten their hours instead of laying them off. Automobile manufacturing,
that
for
means you
example,
gotta
used to
sleep
employ
for
600,000
12
people in Russia. Many of those workers have been furloughed and
Means
are
you
being
gotta
paid two-thirds
sleep
of
for
their
4
usual
hours,
salaries.
silly.
This strategy might help
And
prevent unrest
hydrate.
in the short term, but it's not
Sleep and
sustainable in the
hydrate.
long term.
Otherwise,
Tikvin is
you're
a small
gonna
two-factory
die,
town in Russia,
and
around
that's
100
not
miles east
allowed.
of St. Petersburg. Both the IKEA factory
You
and the
get
freight
me?
car plant, the main
You
employers in the
got
town,
it?
have halted production
You
due to
get me?
sanctions. This has
You
led to mass
got it?
layoffs and furloughed workers. Other small
Gotta
businesses in the
hydrate,
town that
gotta
supported
sleep.
these factories, like trucking firms and
Mando,
caterers, are short of
no
work too.
exceptions.
Retail sales in Russia have fallen 20% when compared with a year ago, as Russians have slashed their spending. About 1,000 Western companies, accounting for almost 40% of Russian GDP, have curtailed operations in the country. Consumer confidence is at its lowest level since 2015, and surveys show that 78% of Russians no longer plan on making any major purchases in the near future. Both cars and parts to repair cars are especially difficult to source in Russia at present. Second-hand parts sellers on social media are filling some of that gap, importing used car parts from Kazakhstan and Belarus at huge markups. The official sanctions are not the only thing impacting Russia's economy. International traders are reluctant to deal with non-sanctioned Russian commodities, both for reputational reasons and for fear that they'll become sanctioned while in storage. Ural crude, the Russian grade of crude oil, often sells at as much as a $35 per barrel discount to international crude oil prices. So there's no way around it. Sanctions are definitely impacting the Russian economy, and Russia is suffering significantly more than the Western nations that are imposing these sanctions. That should probably be fairly obvious anyhow, but it doesn't hurt to dig through the numbers and see. In many ways, though, Russia's economy is holding up better than many, including me, had expected. Some quick moves by Russia's central bank to impose capital controls and sharply hike interest rates partially stabilized the ruble. Higher global oil prices offset the Russia discount, and rising sales to China, India, and Turkey helped to offset declining exports to the EU. It's estimated that Russian oil revenues are only down 18% year-on-year over the January to August period. An important question that I'm often asked is why has the ruble managed to stay so strong in this situation? Well, there are a few reasons for the ruble's strength. In February, as soon as sanctions were announced, the Russian central bank increased interest rates to 20%, incentivizing Russians to keep their money in Russia and in Russian banks.
Wait, did he say 20%?
The Russian central strength in this situation is why has the ruble managed to stay so strong in this situation? Well, there are a few reasons for the ruble's strength. In February, as soon as sanctions were announced, the Russian central bank increased interest rates to 20%, incentivizing Russians to keep their money in Russia and in Russian banks. The less rubles that are being sold by the public, the less downward pressure there is on the currency. Next up, the Russian government began forcing Russian businesses to convert 80% of any money that they earn overseas into rubles. Many Russian companies are still doing business with foreign companies, earning euros, dollars, and yen. This conversion requirement creates a significant demand for the Russian currency, thus helping to prop it up. Most importantly, though, Russian citizens were prevented from converting more than $10,000 of their money into foreign currencies through the end of the year. So there's a high interest rate.
Do you think Russia could disintegrate if they lose the war? I don't know enough about Russian internal politics, but just from like a feeling that I have, like external to Russia, I don't know how Putin holds on to power in that country, losing to Ukraine. Like, Russia went from being the second strongest economy in the world to the second strongest economy in Ukraine, or the second strongest military in the world, to the second strongest military in Ukraine. It's like the meme that people are saying now. Like, I don't know how you can let that happen and still have the respect of your country. I don't know what happens there. But who knows? I couldn't make a prediction one or another. You're seeing a lot of people dying now. I don't know if that's from Putin or enemies of Putin or what the fuck, but like there's kind of like oligarchs and people that are starting to drop dead. But who knows?
forced buying of the ruble, and the currency is close to impossible to sell. This actually
Whoa.
means that we don't really know the true exchange rate. The currency can only be bought and can't really be sold in significant size. The chart that you can see right now shows how trading volume in the ruble has dried right up this year, as it's no longer being freely transacted. Grigory Potemkin is a historic figure who was appointed governor of Crimea in 1784 when Catherine the Great annexed the region. In order to demonstrate how successful he had been in resettling Crimea with Russian villagers, he took the empress on a boat tour in 1787. Potemkin is said to have built and populated a mobile facade of a village that he had assembled, disassembled, and then reassembled repeatedly along her route down the river as she inspected the region. As long as the villages were viewed from a reasonable distance, it appeared that the Russian resettlement had been a great success. In many ways, the Russian central bank has created a Potemkin currency and economy for Putin. Using a range of tools, they've made the ruble appear to have more value than it actually has, as few people outside Russia would want to buy a single ruble unless they were forced to do so, and most Russians who might want to get their money out of the country are unable to sell their rubles. The protectionist measures put in place by the Russian central bank could, in theory, work as a bridge for the ruble. If some sort of resolution to the situation occurred and the sanctions were withdrawn and trade relations were then resumed with the West, the measures could, in theory, be slowly withdrawn, with the ruble having been stabilized throughout the whole situation. But if the measures are withdrawn without this type of resolution, the ruble could be expected to collapse, causing enormous economic pain to the Russian people. Russian oligarchs have been particularly impacted by the sanctions, as we've all seen in the press. Many who used to enjoy spending time in the West are now forced to stay in Russia. There's little sign that the sanctions have pressured the oligarchs into starting any sort of palace coup against Putin. I guess he does always keep them at a table's length, though. Many of the oligarchs are opposed to Putin's war, as there's no upside for them, and they're reported to be resentful that the war and resulting sanctions have ruined their fortunes. It's worth noting that they're also upset with the Western governments, who they believe have scapegoated them for events that are outside their control. To do a palace coup and overthrow the Tsar, you need to be in the palace first, a Russian businessman under sanctions is quoted as saying to the Financial Times. None of these people are there. Many of the newer cohort of oligarchs who are closest to Putin are very rich, but the reason they are rich is because they are close to Putin, and they've no urge to pressure him to stop the war.
Saddam Hussein lost 2 wars against Iran and the US and had sanctions to his country, and it still took an invasion to depose him. I could be wrong on this. I'm just kind of like spitballing here, but like there might be a difference because I think that like the country of Russia has like Russian citizens who all view themselves as being part of like the country of Russia. I feel like the chances of them to like depose a leader or rise up and get rid of somebody like Putin is going to be measured differently than like one of these weird kind of like Middle Eastern states where I think that some of the boundaries or some of the borders are going to be drawn more on like religious lines or tribal lines rather than like, oh, I'm an Iraqi citizen, you know. But I could be completely wrong on it, you know.
War. They don't wish to be cut off. They equally don't wish to accidentally fall out of windows, which seems to be a growing problem in Russia, and it possibly relates to issues with building codes, but once again, I have no expertise on that. Some of the Russian business oligarchs are reported to have offered to turn over a significant portion of their wealth to Ukraine to help rebuild the country in exchange for having the sanctions lifted on them individually. The Ukrainian government has shown no interest in this as a remedy. Taking the pressure off the oligarchs would likely reduce the pressure on Putin. I should say that many of the oligarchs who are alleged to have made these offers deny having made them. It's not just the oligarchs that are affected. The sanctions have also impacted moderately wealthy Russians, wiping millions of dollars off their wealth. According to Putin, this vindicates his warnings that Russians were taking too many risks by snapping up assets in the West. Real success is possible only when you tie your future and your children's future to the motherland, he has said. Europe has managed at great cost to stock up on gas over the last 6 months. Gas storage at facilities in the EU has reached 82% of capacity, ahead of the 80% target the bloc set for the end of October. Member states have diversified supplies, increasing pipeline imports from Norway, Algeria and Azerbaijan, and LNG from the US and other producers. Manoj Pradhan at Talking Heads Macro argues that European gas reserves can be thought of as being like foreign exchange reserves in emerging markets. All is good while the stockpiles rise, but that changes dramatically if reserve levels start falling, even if they're doing exactly what they were designed to do. Before its invasion of Ukraine, Russia accounted for 46% of the EU's gas imports, which has since fallen to 9%. Confidence is growing in Europe that they can get through the winter without severe economic problems or energy rationing. Both the war and the sanctions have led to changes in global energy flows.
My understanding is that energy prices across a lot of Europe are quite high right now. So I don't know if that's true.
Russia has diverted a large share of exports to India and China, who are still willing to buy from them, but of course at a discount. The discount on Russian crude is greater than it's ever been. Europe has increased purchases from West Africa and Latin America. Analysts point out that Russia will only be able to divert so much of its oil and gas flow to the east due to the lack of spare capacity in pipelines going to the Pacific and China. The Yale University paper shows that when it comes to natural gas, Russia is far more dependent on Europe than vice versa. The authors argue that Russia's pivot to the east will be difficult to execute. Last year, China bought less than 10% of the oil from Russia that Europe bought. A lot has been made in the press of the partnership between Russia and China, but we have to wonder how happy China actually is with the ongoing situation. China has a lot of outstanding loans to Russia, Ukraine and Belarus. In fact, the 3 countries combined make up 1/5 of China's overseas lending. The loans to Ukraine are likely worthless right now, and any infrastructure that was built has likely been destroyed in the war. Many of the other international loans that China has made to emerging markets as part of their Belt and Road Initiative are rapidly deteriorating in credit quality as the impact of the war is causing problems like food inflation in emerging markets. The rise in global energy prices is doing nothing to help the slowing Chinese economy either. According to the most recent Chinese trade data, Chinese exports to Russia have halved since the start of the year to April, and it's reported that Chinese banks have halted all loans and financing to Russia this year. If Russia does pivot to trading mostly with China, they'll be in a rather weak negotiating position, as China will be very aware that Russia has few other customers. While China is Russia's most important trade partner, Russia is a very small customer to China.
I would imagine so, right? What the fuck does, this might just be my ignorance speaking, but like, what does Russia export besides like hydrocarbons or like fuel and gas? Like, is Russia like a manufacturing powerhouse for anything? Wheat? Oh, they do food, right? Didn't they? Do they do some food? Maybe that was mainly Ukraine, actually. Some minerals, a lot of food, gas, oil, wheat, metals. Oh, actually, we can just look this up, right? Exports of Russia. Where's like the nice graph that shows all the boxes? Oh, this. Holy shit. Okay, so what does ICT stand for? So like half their shit is tied to their oils and shit. Insane clown tribe. Information and communication technology. Really? Computer shit, IT work. Oh, okay, never mind. So not like, okay. So here's their wheats. We've got semi-finished products of iron. Gas turbines. Fertilizers. We've got a lot of gold. Jeez.
The Netherlands, Vietnam, Mexico, and the UK in terms of export volumes. Beyond the practical difficulties of building gas pipelines to China, there are likely limits as to how much China wishes to engage with Russia. One of the key principles of Chinese energy policy in recent years has been supply diversification. Beijing will see the current situation not just as an opportunity to pick up cheap energy resources, but also as a cautionary tale of over-reliance on one supplier. It's difficult to imagine that Xi is very happy with Putin right now, despite their no-limits friendship that was declared last year. Xi would most likely rather focus on domestic issues in China and not have to deal with the international problems that have been churned up due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Any slowdown in Europe would affect China, as Europeans buy a lot of Chinese manufactured goods. The sanctions on Russia were carefully constructed from the very beginning to avoid hitting the Russian energy sector. This was done because Europe had become increasingly and excessively reliant on Russia for its energy needs. The sanctions allowed Russia to sell oil and gas to Europe and allowed Russian banks who process energy payments continued access to the SWIFT messaging system used to organize international transfers. Energy was and is the biggest hole in the sanctions, and this hole allowed Russia to continue selling oil and gas to keep its economy alive and to fund Putin's war in Ukraine. While the challenges in getting by without Russian gas are extreme for Europe, Russia is actually more reliant on Europe than Europe is reliant on Russia. Europe bought 46% of their natural gas from Russia before the war, but Russia sold 83% of their gas to Europe. Russia and the Russian economy is far more dependent on Europe than vice versa. So where does all of this leave us? The recent economic data tells us that the defeatist headlines arguing that Russia's economy has bounced back are simply untrue. The data shows that the Russian economy is in tatters. It's a lot like the anti-sanctions Lada. It's in rough shape, it's stumbling along with a lot of important components missing. I can't really offer an informed opinion as to how the war is likely to conclude. In fact, I've been amazed by how well the Ukrainians have done against what appeared to be a much stronger and better equipped army at the start of the invasion. So far, this has not just been a failure for Putin personally, it's also a political and economic disaster for all of Russia. The former Russian oligarch Mikhail Khodorkovsky called on the international community last month to step up arms supplies to Ukraine, saying that the issue can only be solved by force. He says there's no point in negotiating with Putin. It's very difficult to imagine at this point what a conclusion to this conflict might look like. Would Putin even remain in power if Russia is defeated? And under what circumstances might sanctions against Russia be lifted? It's impossible to know. If you found this video interesting...
Do you think there's a chance that if Ukraine actually retook Crimea, it would be... Okay, here's my guess. Here we go. Big guess coming up. If Ukraine takes back Crimea, I think Putin leaves. I think Putin's gonzo. I think Putin is gonzo garbanzo. No shot does he maintain control in Russia. Although I don't know if it would come to that. I feel like Putin would negotiate something, some peace deal, where they at least get to keep Sevastopol, right? Where they at least get to keep that military base. Would Ukraine do it? It would be insane.
I get you
robbing me. Bro, I wanted to, every time I borrowed from someone, it was like, I wanted to continue gambling. I wanted to owe people. If it was a huge amount, it was mainly to owe people. If it was like 500 or 1K, that was only for gambling, and I'll be real for that.
Dude, I'm telling you, Slicker, man, I think, bro, if I were you, if you have any sort, if your heart, you said that you're a good person, like, Slicker, part of me wants to believe that, bro, it's hard. And you know I've been friends with you for 3 fucking goddamn years, man, but like, it's,
listen,
it's hard seeing these Twitter DMs and shit.
Oh yeah. If I didn't.
Also, like, can I ask you, like, bro, how much time of a day did you take asking for people for money? I feel like it's a full-time job.
I would ditch the stream. I would ditch the whole day. Like, I would not stream, and I would just go into like finding people. Like, it was cringe. It was terrible. It was bad. I would go into my views list and be like, the routine was to ask the age, and then if they were over like 21, I'd assume they got a job. So I'd be like,
oh my god,
you know.
What was your plan to pay everyone? Do you have a plan?
I mean, I was recently gonna get a sponsor where they were gonna put me in a trial, and if they liked me, they would have give me a lot of money.
Wait, for what? For what? For gambling?
Right.
Is this the Invader V tactic? Wait, what? Did she do this? Or are you just like expecting your viewers to have a job or something?
Of course it's haram. What you see is not what Muslims do. I don't represent an Islamic. So if you're gonna say it's haram and stuff, that's not what Muslims do. But I wanted to do the casino, and I would have had people back one by one. I've paid a few people back. Listen to me, Miz, everyone out there, on my mum's life. I'm not even gonna say that, to be honest. At this point, it's been a fucking joke. I had intentions of paying people back. And
wait, did he? I wonder if I got a video from him. I don't remember. If I got a video, or if he just asked. Oh shit.
Yo, it's me, Destiny. It's me. I'm so sorry, bro. Look. Yo, it's me, Destiny.
I only got a 3-second video. What the fuck? Maybe that's why he paid me back, because he didn't go through all the effort. He felt guilty.
No sympathy, but obviously, I mean, this is what gambling does to you. I was crying every single time I would after my late night.
I know. I saw you do it here.
Okay. Wait, what?
Yeah, you're crying over something.
Okay. And yeah.
When did you start?
Number one, first of all, I want to say something, right? Those two things. I know I don't want to say. I really shouldn't say this. I know everyone's accusations are correct, right? Except from Abdul HD, because he said that I am not gambling, which I am. And
wait, okay, where are you gambling?
I've been banned on multiple sites. All UK sites have been banned for. I gambled on Bet3. I shouldn't even say the sites, right?
No, why wouldn't you? Just say it. Who cares?
Okay, so Bet365, Skybet, Virgin Bet, Ladbrokes,
signing up to all of them.
Game Bookers.
How do you get banned?
I got banned because I would like deposit 1k to 2k a day. So then they would be like, this is suspicious. They'd send me an email and put a deposit limit. Then I'd make a new account with the same name, but you know how my name works, right? Abraham Muhammad. No, the next one will be Abraham Jihad Muhammad. And I make a new account and deposit with that. Then I got permaban from the site because they found out duplicates. I can share a screen, but you don't share it on your screen because you'll leak details. If you don't believe me, I can show you right now. You'll see all my accounts.
Yeah, do it, just so I can prove to people. Look, I mean, like, you saying it off the cuff. There's probably no fucking way that. Yo, time for the 5 minutes. I'm not gonna show.
Because it'll show my. Okay, look at this. This is Skybet.
I mean, he's logging in right now, chat. Your account is currently suspended.
Okay. Look how many accounts. You know how your Gmail saves your accounts when you click on it automatically?
Can I see how much you've waged? Or is your
you can't check on this, but I can show you in dual bits. I already showed my BTC address, and people said that.
Just as a heads up, I don't remember if we said this before on stream, but I think gambling addictions are one of the like most insane fucking addictions ever. Like, it is the effect that it has on the human mind. I think it's worse than any other addiction. I think it's actually worse than like heroin. Like, I think gambling addiction is like the #1 most insane fucking addiction of all the addictions that I've ever been addicted to, except for fucking League of Legends. It's like unbelievably crazy.
I mean, he's logging into all these.
I think the reason why is because the totality of everything. The thing is, like, so somebody's like, it can't be worse than heroin. I think it can be because you can only do so much heroin before you die, but you can gamble forever. You can keep stealing, you can keep borrowing, you can keep getting loans, you can keep doing shit. There's not like a physical fuck up on your body. Like, you can push and push and push and push and push. You can't do infinite amounts of heroin or fentanyl or any other crazy drug or whatever. You can kind of for meth, I guess. But, like, for the most part, like, you're gonna like you can go forever on gambling shit. So it's just like, it's insane. It just destroys you.
I don't need to give an example. People don't need to give an example of how betting is bad. You've seen it from my side, and it was fair to even leak to everyone.
Okay, can I ask you something? Listen, you might as well lay everything out now. What about the cancer patient one? Is that real?
Yes. But the
Giga chat, dude.
I know people not. The first time she gave me a first time. She did give me the first time, man. When I ask from people,
7 hours behind.
That's some hustling.
I don't think I'm careless, and yeah. She gave me the first time. She gave me a lot. She supported me. She helped me. Sweet person. And sadly, I don't want to share any information. She's previously been through what I did to her.
I bet you're on the road, aren't you?